Hey Codersaurs, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some of the advanced commands we have at our disposal for moving our dinosaur around his world. We'll also introduce the ability for our dinosaur to drop some three-dimensional shapes, which you're going to find very useful in creating some cool pictures later on when we're learning to program. So the first thing we need to do is fire up the Codersaur GUI as usual. Go to the Codersaurs app. The first thing you'll see is the basic commands. We have graduated all the way to advanced commands. So it's that second last button at the top. You'll see the tooltip there. Press it, and once you do, your screen should look like this. So what has changed with the advanced commands? Well, at the bottom of them, we see the familiar buttons for changing our color, picking the pen up and down, and so on, clearing the screen. It's only in the top area where we see the buttons have actually changed. And this top area is divided into two sections. Looking at the buttons, you should by now have a pretty good idea what the top four buttons should do. Pause this video and have a play around with them to see if you can work out what they're there for. And in the middle of the screen, we see two buttons, cube and sphere. We'll leave those for a bit later on. Let's get going with the top buttons. So hopefully by now you know what these familiar FD, BK, LT and RT buttons do. They're the buttons we have to move our dinosaur forwards, backwards and turn him left and right. But this time we're actually able to change the number inside those brackets or parentheses. So remember, in the intermediate commands we could only move forward 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters, or turn right 45 and turn right 90. Here in the advanced commands we can put whatever numbers we want in there. We can move forward 10 centimeters, we can move forward 100 centimeters, we can move forward 2.5 centimeters. Now, changing the distance we can move forward and backwards is one way of making more interesting pictures, but by far more interesting is our ability to now turn right or turn left any number of degrees. Before we could only turn right or left 45 or 90 degrees. Remember, 45 was like half a turn to the left or right, and 90 degrees was a full turn to the left or right. Now we're going to learn some of the very cool things you can do when you can choose how many degrees you want to turn. But the first thing I'm going to do is change this 10 centimeters in the forward command to 50 centimeters, because that's going to draw some much bigger pictures. The next thing I'm going to do is change the 90 degrees in the turn right button to 120 degrees. And then after that I'm going to repeat the following thing 3 times. I'm going to press the forward button and then the right button 3 times in a row. Forward, right, forward, right, forward, right. And look what we've ended up with. Our dinosaur's back where he started, but he's left behind him a triangle. And in a similar way, I'm now going to change that 120 back to 90. And instead of repeating 3 times, I'm now going to repeat 4 times, moving forwards and turning right. What do we end up this time? Forward, right, forward, right, forward, right, forward, right. A square. Notice that in both cases the dinosaur ended up where he started. Finally, I'm going to change that 90 degrees to 72 degrees. You'll know why I'm doing this later. And I'm going to press forward and right repeatedly until the dinosaur returns to his starting point. Here we go. What have we ended up with here? A 5-sided figure, or a pentagon. And so here we are, the first puzzle you're going to have to solve as you work your way through Codersaurs. Have a look at the sequence of angles we used. The first one was 180, then 90, then 72. And that generated a 3-sided, 4-sided, and 5-sided figure. How many degrees do you think we have to turn right to make a 6-sided figure, or a hexagon? And while you're at it, why not work out how much we have to turn right to make an 8-sided figure, or an octagon? Pause the video and play around a little bit. You can't break anything, just try some things. So if you've worked it out already, well done. And if you hasn't, well, here's a clue. Remember last episode we learned that there are 360 degrees in a circle. That means that we have to turn a full 360 degrees to end up in the direction we started at. So when drawing these regular figures, We want to end up pointing in the same direction, but we're only allowed to turn a certain number of times. So what do you think you have to do now? Pause the video again and have a think. Try again to make that hexagon and that octagon. Right, so hopefully you've worked it out. You have to divide 360 degrees by the number of turns you're going to be making. So for a six-sided figure, you're going to divide 360 degrees by 6, which leaves you with 60 degrees. So you're going to be turning right 6 times to make a six-sided figure. And similarly, for an octagon or eight-sided figure, you have to divide 360 by 8, which gives you 45 degrees that you have to turn right every time. So if you turn right 45 degrees and move forward 8 times in a row, you're going to create an eight-sided figure or an octagon. That's kind of cool. You've come up with your own little recipe for creating regular shapes. For a shape with n sides, we have to divide 360 degrees by n, and then we're going to do n times going forward and turning right by that amount of degrees. It's surprisingly simple, isn't it? And before you know it, you've just made your first computer program. You've come up with an algorithm that, given the number of sides for a regular shape, you've broken down into a few simple steps that you're going to repeat 2 instructions n times, moving forward and turning right. That's all that programming is taking a problem and turning it into a simple recipe for solving that problem. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. The real programming will start in the next episode when we get and graduate onto the JavaScript commands. Let's quickly wrap up these advanced commands by first learning what the cube and the sphere button do. So first things first, let's tidy up by pressing the clear screen button. And once you've done that, press any color and press that cube button. You'll notice something appeared under our dino. Let's move him a little bit forward so you can see what it was. So I'm just going to move forward 50 centimeters there, and you can see he's left behind a little square. Change color and repeat this a few times. I'm actually going to change this move forward 50 to only be move forward 20 so it doesn't move as far every time. But I'm going to turn right 90, I'm going to choose yellow, I'm going to drop a square, and I'm going to move forward a bit. You'll see there's a yellow square. I'm going to turn right again, drop a green one, move forward a bit, drop a blue one, move forward a bit. So it seems every time I press this cube button, our dinosaur drops a little square behind him. So what do you think the 10 does in brackets? Have a play with that. I'm going to turn right again. I'm going to drop a square. I'm going to move forward a bit. Then I'm going to change this 10 to a 20. And drop another square. And you can see that square is twice as big. I'm going to move forward a bit more. Change that maybe to a 40 and drop an even bigger square. Move forward some more. And what you'll notice is the further I'm moving to the left, the less and less these things are looking like squares. In fact, they're looking like cubes. The dinosaur is dropping a cube every time you press that cube button. The first ones looked like squares because you're looking directly down on them. But as you moved out from underneath you, you could start seeing the sides of those cubes. And you can confirm that they're cubes by clicking the left mouse button and dragging, or swiping the screen. And you end up seeing that you've been moving around this flat world, dropping these boxes or cubes behind you. So now what do you think the sphere button does? Well, the sphere is just a mathematical word for a ball. First thing we're going to do is press the home button so that we're looking at it from the top again. I'm going to turn left this time. I'm going to pick a color, maybe I haven't used light blue. I'm going to move forward a bit and I'm going to drop a sphere. I'm going to move forward a bit more and drop a bigger sphere. Maybe move forward a little bit more once more and drop an even bigger sphere over there. And you'll see when I drag around the screen, I've actually dropped a ball of various sizes and colors inside the world. So there you have it. Our dinosaur has some even more interesting tools under his belt than we first imagined. Play around with building your own pictures using these spheres and cubes. Here's some examples that might be interesting. So I'm going to change the cube size to the same size as moving forward. So I'm going to make cubes of size 20 and then I'm going to move forward 20 every time, and I'm going to change the color each time I do that. So as I go forward, I'm going to press home first, so Maybe this time I'll go off to 45 degrees left. I'm going to do a red, move forward 20, drop a red cube, move forward 20, drop a yellow cube, move forward 20, drop a red cube, move forward 20, drop a yellow cube. So you can see you can start building some really cool environments using these unlimited numbers of balls and cubes. And if you recall, you might want to use the pen up so that as you move your dinosaur around the screen, you're not leaving a line behind you. So that's all there is for this episode of getting to know the Codersaurs GUI. We've now covered the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced commands. In the next episode, we're going to start programming when we reach the JavaScript commands. The next episode is going to be the final one in this introductory series. So until then, this is Dr. J signing out. See you next time. Ciao.